Hello and welcome. A short while ago, we held a conference on the EU's competence creep, and I have the pleasure and honor to welcome one of the speakers that we had at this conference. Ms. Boglárka Bólya is Hungarian Ministerial Commissioner for Sovereignty Reform of the European Union, and she coordinates the National Competency Review. We're very happy to have you with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here.
We appreciate your time. So I'll delve right into the topic. We spoke about competence creep at the conference where you were a speaker, and you coordinate the competency review in Hungary, analyze how the competencies between the national level and the European level have evolved. So perhaps you could give us a short insight into what it is that you focus on.
Yes, well, thank you very much, and thank you for organizing this conference. It was highly timely, and indeed the Hungarian government started a systematic review of the European Union competencies. We have three aims with this competence review. One is to reveal the mechanism how the European Union expanded its competencies, I would say mostly in the past decade. Also to see whether these competencies division in the treaties are optimal. And then second, we evaluate or analyze why the existing mechanism to protect national state sovereignty and the competencies which are enshrined in the treaties, why this protection mechanism, they don't really work. And then thirdly, hopefully propose solutions how we can basically effectively protect member states' competencies against this overexpansion.
Yes. It is frequently said that crisis moments would be like impulses for centralization, or for never let a good crisis go to waste, a possibility to expand competencies at the EU level. And there are two observations or two questions that I'd like to put to you. The first one, it seems over the crisis of about the past decade, the reaction of the European Union at the supranational level has always been to centralize just in order to centralize, even if it was not necessarily appropriate to the crisis at hand. So perhaps first, what's your experience, your observation on this, let's call it centralization reflex that Brussels has in moments of crisis?
So we started with the discussion with the ever-closing union. And I was talking about two moments while we basically realized how this competence creep and this expansion of competencies really accelerated in the past decade. One is the ever closer union, and this is how we call it as a myth that basically European institutions think that we always have to move forward with a deeper integration. And the problem is with this one is that where are the member states? Because the member states are the architects of the treaties, and the member states should decide which competencies we are going to acquire and which competencies are exercised jointly or via the European institutions. But this is, the main question is who decides, and our belief is that it's the member states who decide, and be so that the direction is not going it is not going into this direction. But the problem is that the EU institutions think that the member states basically mandated the EU institutions to elaborate and interpret basically the rules and the legislations. And then the second one is the crisis, because we saw in the past decade mostly that every crisis, instead of proposing pragmatical solutions, basically every crisis was a good opportunity to centralize powers and stretch the competencies and the powers taking away from the member states. For example, the COVID, where the European Union basically centralized the health and finance competencies, or let's put it like this, issues. We have a common debt now that our children are going to pay, or even our grandchildren are going to pay. We have the Next Generation EU, which obviously Hungary doesn't have any access because it's linked to rule of law, but this is another question. And then energy crisis, war in Ukraine, that was again an opportunity to centralize powers in the energy sector, when in the treaties they say that the member states has the right for their own energy mix and energy sovereignty. And now basically what we see is that energy policy is used as a tool to reach foreign policy and climate goals. Migration has become basically a reality, an everyday reality. And you know that we, from the beginning in Hungary, we said that this has to be stopped. It's not managed. This has to be stopped, illegal migration. That's another thing that now, 2015, we were the black sheep, and now basically they agree with us in most of the cases. External border protection, for example. But you know that we are fined for 200 million euro because we have a border protection. And we pay also a daily 1 million as a penalty.
It's from the CGAU ruling that
exactly, it's
went beyond what
the Commission proposed, so it's a deterring. And then another issue, we can talk about it, but you know it better, how the Court of Justice basically overstepped and overstretched the law, and basically they are not interpreting the law now, but set a political directions, which is something that we also should have a look at. But migration policy, now, in the end, we have forced quota system. So even if they say it is a solidarity mechanism, it's not a solidarity mechanism. It is a forced quota system that we have to, either we take the migrants or we pay a lot of money. And yes, this is also something that basically de facto, in the end, they centralized this power, even if it's a shared policy. Before it was a directive, now it's regulation, so member states have no margin of maneuver, and the national specificities are not taken into account. So here also we can talk about, I think, de facto supervisor and executive power on national legislation and on the issues that basically affect the core of a member state's sovereignty, like migration, who you want to live with. That should be, I think, the competence really of the member states to decide about that.
So there is perhaps something of not just a centralization reflex, but almost a centralization ideology. Perhaps for lack of a better idea, I'm not quite sure how it came about. What you pointed out is that it moves not just from one policy field to another, but it's also the nature of the supranational norm that evolves more from directives that leave some leeway for the states to regulations which are to be implemented one-to-one as they are formulated by the Commission. So this very much shows that there is a restriction of the policy liberty, if you will, of all states in the European Union. As you pointed out, and as we also discussed at the conference, beyond what the treaties intended, and also beyond what the treaties state. So there is a creep in various forms, and it is something which cannot continue in this way because it's going to damage, right? It is already damaging the European Union, its functionality, its legitimacy. So we need alternative approaches to this. And one is the sovereignist approach, of which you also spoke and wrote about. And it is also, I understand, the position, official, if you can call it, position of the Hungarian government as well as others in the European Union. So how would you, if you'd have to put 2 or 3 keywords on sovereignist position in the EU, how would you describe it? What would those keywords be, the core elements in a way?
Europe of nations. So when we joined the community, that was a totally different, European Union than now, and we joined to the concept of the Europe of nations. That means that the member states are the masters of the future of the integration, and that the diversity of the member states are respected. And this is, I think, what we are seeing now is this erosion of the Europe of nations concept. And yes, it has become a totally different European Union what we joined. We, with the Europe of nations concept, we really think that we are working together. So member states are working together. Member states can be stronger working together. And if there is an added value to work together, and this added value is that it's effectively and it's more efficient to act together than alone, then this is added value when how we jointly exercise competencies or via the European institutions. But this should be the decision of the member states, and this is the core question is who is deciding about the future of the Europe, the European institutions or the member states. And yes, in every big organization, per se, there is a attempt always to gain more and more and more competencies. And this is also with the deeper integration, with the ever closer union. So this fits into this concept. And the main differences are between federalist and sovereignist, not right and left also, but between the federalist and the sovereignist. And the federalists wanted and would like to have the United States of Europe, and why we would like to keep the European Union as it was originally planned. So member states and the member states decide which competencies we get and which competencies remain and which competencies are better jointly exercised. So yes, and it has changed because now what I have seen is that basically ideological conformity matters much more than the genuine respect for democracy. For example, in my case meaning in the case of Hungary. So we have seen this erosion, I would say, and this gradual expansion of competences and ideological debates, which in the end matters not the citizens. And what we would like to is that what people and the citizens care about, what is important for them, that should be also, I think, the matter of the focus. Your question, sovereignist. Yes, so we have actually started this thinking a while ago in the Conference of the Future of Europe. We also talked about this, and we have had many meaningful proposals and forward-looking proposals. And this discussion basically about the competence creep fits also very well in this constant debate that now it's been going on since years about the internal reform of the European Union. And this is a meaningful debate, and it's not only Hungary, but also other member states and also European institutions are thinking about that. That was basically that should have been the idea of the Future of Europe conference. But in the end, I can say, because I was dealing with that and then it was just a legitimization of some federalist idea and project, and it was totally hijacked. The whole project was, I think, hijacked because, for example, the Hungarian proposals and the proposals of the citizens didn't really figure anywhere because they didn't fit the mainstream. The Patriots, we are in the Patriots Party family, and in this family there are also others who think alike about the future of the Europe and how we can regain the balance. Forward-looking ideas, for example, as I mentioned, the catalogue of competencies, how can we make more effective the subsidiarity principle, because now in practice it doesn't really work now, or a competence court. So we have ideas, but obviously it has to be carried out. It's a part of a debate. Maybe it's not in a couple of months when we can really say what is now the way forward. It's a part of a debate. We should think about it, and we should also find allies to think about it, to find allies to carry on with it. But we have ideas, and we will propose ideas. And in the end, what we would like is really that the outcome that we have basically that we reveal the mechanism, how this competence creep works and in which areas. And the legislation, the European legislation is a vast area. So that's why we chose basically 5 where we saw our experience and analysis show that these are significantly big extension of powers, as the 5 areas are the migration, economic policy, energy policy, rule of law, and there is a big package of education, culture, and family policy. So we basically chose these 5 areas to focus on, and then we will document the process and we will map the mechanisms, how it works.
Well, I for one am very much looking forward to read the conclusions that the work that you coordinate is going to produce. The 5 items that you just mentioned really touch the core of what the states and the societies in the states actually are. Reaching from energy, who you want to live with, to education, that is, and family, obviously. So those are really essential items. That ought to be really interesting. It's, I think, a big piece of work that you have on your desk there. Thank you very much for having come in, for the interesting conversation, for having been with us in Brussels, and we look forward to seeing you again soon, I hope.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation.